Number 29, test 8. I love seeing this one in reference to the last one on practice test 8 that we used picking numbers or plugging in for, which was number 23. So if you didn't see that one, go back and check that one out relative to this one. So this one's super interesting because if you looked at number 23, this form here would be the right form if we did have percentage growth in this question. This is one of the reasons number 29 can be so interesting. That is, look, is this question incredibly difficult? Probably not, but is it easy to get wrong? Absolutely. Okay, so this tells us we have a 30% of the paper has been used after 20 minutes, but it also tells us that this is at a constant rate. So of course that makes sense. No photocopier is going to increase speed or decrease speed, right? So if you had percentage growth and 30% was gone after 20 minutes, 30% after another 20 minutes would be a different amount of paper. That is, let's do the math just so you can see. If you do 30% of 5,000, you would say 5,000 multiplied by 0.30. Or if you want to see what's left, which is kind of what we're actually interested in, multiplied by 0.7. That is to say, you keep 70%, right? So if you keep 70%, of course, you would get down now to 3,500. So that's how much paper you would have left, right? Now, just to prove my point, if you now have 3,500 and you're thinking that this is a percentage growth question, or percentage decrease question, 20 more minutes should mean we lose another 30%. And now 30%, I believe, is 100 or 1,050, I believe. So if we multiplied this, I believe what we would be getting, because I'm thinking 350, the three groups of that is 9, 10, 50. Yeah, so we would subtract 1050 from this to get 70%. And you can use your calculator. I'm doing this in my head. But 1050 off of that would be 2,450, right? That's 1,000 less plus another 50 less. So you can see, look, the change that happened here. First we subtracted 1,500. Now we're subtracting 1,050. Those are different amounts. Obviously, that's not what happens with a photocopier, and it's also evidenced by the phrase constant rate. So that's kind of a trap. These answers are wrong. We are talking about a constant rate thing. And now notice what the incorrect answer that's remaining does. It multiplies 20 times m. But m is minutes, and minutes are 20. So what are we really doing here? Well, we saw, when you have, the first point you have is that when minutes are 0, I'll write it here, m, and then p is like the number of pages. When minutes are 0, you have 5,000. In 20 minutes, you're down to 3,500. And we got that by the math I just showed you before. Essentially, 5,000 times 0.7 lets you know how much you have. Or you could say 5,000 times 0.3. And sometimes it's easier to think of this as 0.70 and 0.30 as in 70% and 30%. It means that you've eliminated here 1,500 pages, right? That's how you get to this value off of 5,000, right? And now the slope here ends up being 75, right? The difference is 1,500 pages. The difference in time is 20 minutes. So pages over minutes, 150 over 2, which is 75 over 1, a slope of 75. Here's the right answer. But, we talked about this being a plugging in question, essentially using these 2 points that we know to be true based on what they've told us. Using those in the equation would be the way to plug in. When m is 0, we need to get 5,000. Well, by the way, that doesn't actually, when m is 0, I guess they all give us 5,000, right? Because anything to the power of 0, if m is a 0, this exponent and this exponent are 0, anything to the 0 power is 1. So this point doesn't really help us, but this point does. When you put in m is 20, you should be able to get rid of this answer, and you should be, I guess I'll cross it off like this, and then I guess when m is 20, you'd get rid of this answer and say, okay, this one remains and this one remains. So we need to do another point and say, well, and 40 minutes, what should happen? Well, we should lose another 1,500 and get down to 2,000. And then that would get rid of answer choice D. Right? Answer choice D, when m is 40, you would be squaring 0.7, and you wouldn't get to 2,000. I think you would get 49% of 5,000, which would be, 490 times 5, so 2,000, 3,450? No, that's not right. 49% of 5,000 would be 2,450. Anyways, that's calculator work. Point is, you could use real values here, and they've made this great trap because these answers are right a lot of times on questions that look like this, but this constant rate changed that. Okay, challenging question number 29.